Greetings, duelists, and welcome to another video. Uh, so I want to talk about a very finite, specific topic. But before we talk about that topic at hand, I kind of wanted to talk about combo decks in general. If you've been seeing my channel, you already know that I love combo decks. I'm not gonna say whether or not one card combo decks are exactly what I like, but I am going to say that there are some combo decks that I just find really cool. I really like exploring and like figuring out the trends and like intricacies between different strategies. Like, for example, I am playing the Super Quantum Engine and Malice, and this is something that it's not common, it's not conventional, but it definitely does work. And Malice is one of those strategies that is just very hyper aggressive. And if it gets to do what it wants to do in the game, it just going to net you like really good success. That's why a lot of people don't like this deck, and why this deck just got so many hits to the point where it is now becoming a rogue strategy. That being said, let's talk about the new combo deck on the block and how ridiculous it's getting with its exploitability. Yes, we're talking about Yummy. Now, if you can see here on the screen, we have two banned cards that are over here. And these two cards are in the forbidden list for a special reason. It's not because of what the cards do by themselves, it's because of how ridiculous the level and power of bridging into our certain archetypes and splashability with certain archetypes was getting. Moon of the Closed Heaven was just a catalyst for Fiendsmith. Like, if you were playing Fiendsmith in your deck, you were playing this card. Nightmare Mermaid was the same thing for Orchest. Like, the problem with Nightmare Mermaid was that it was a little bit too generic to make. Any nightmare monster was kind of generic, and it kind of gave those combo decks a second wind. What do I mean by that? By second wind, what I mean is that if your main strategy just gets stopped entirely by your opponent, you can just pivot into a bridge that gets you to another archetype, and your opponent already exhausted their resources. And that was like as fun and as creative as it was at the very beginning. It kind of just limited a lot of deck building for specific strategies, and it got to the point where it just got a little too exploited. Now, the topic at hand is we're getting a few new cards, or we've gotten a few new cards, and those are mimicking the same level of second wind splashability that we're getting for certain archetypes. Dark Magician of Destruction is just a linchpin for like Red Eye Star Dragoon at the moment, as well as other Dark Magician themes. However, there is one specific deck in the game that can bridge into this entire archetype because of the Dark Magician of Destruction. We already discussed it on last week when we talked about Dark Magician of Destruction as a card and whether or not it was viable in the format. And that deck was Yummy. And I normally wouldn't have made this kind of video if it was just Dark Magician of Destruction. But we are getting a new card in the TCG this upcoming week. And that card also mimics the same thing Dark Magician of Destruction does for Yummy. And that card is Sky Striker Ace Camellia. For those who don't know the combo, if you have less than 3 spells in your graveyard, Camellia just takes 2 effect monsters. You can use Camellia's effect, dump the Hornet Drones, turn it into Kagari, grab the Hornet Drones, and if you played Yummy enough times, you already know that Yummy in its inception already played the Sky Striker engine with Hornet Drones, because it just enabled you to summon Cupsy Yummy Way and just bridge into your combos. With Camellia now being TCG legal this upcoming week, this can be done with almost every strategy in the game. Any deck in the game that can just summon two monsters, two effect monsters, can bridge directly into Yumi. And that's not good. Like, Yumi is becoming something that a lot of players don't like. I already know they didn't particularly like. Before we talk about that topic, let's talk about the splashability and the level of power behind Yumi. This is a pure list from Jonah Singer, aka Jugi JoJo, or JoJo Samar. I already post. I'm going to post all their links in the description. This is a pure Yumi deck, and as you can see, there's a lot of non-engine. Like, there's around 20 non-engine in here. This is from Shunping. I'll also post it in the description. This is the Azamina like Yumi version. The Azamina engine is the best engine for Magician Souls or DMOD. Like, it's just way too much value, and it gives you like multiple layers of interruptions and negates, and also like insulates your board against like non-engine. You have the Fiendsmith version, also by Shunping. Fiendsmith is also very strong in this deck because it kind of just gives you insulation against certain cards. The only card that you're not insulated from is Small Charming Fualos. But you know, you have the 3 Ash and the Called By to just try to play that mini game if you are interested in doing that. You already know I'm not a fan of it, but you know, here we are. And this just reminds me of something. Doesn't this just remind you of Snake Eyes? Like, Snake Eyes at its inception was that one card combo deck that had multiple extenders. They just played through multiple hand traps, and if it got to play the game, it just made a really incredible board to the point where your resources just won't keep up with it. Like, you would think that having Snatchy limited would be enough to just make the deck not strong with its interruptions. But the thing is, this is a very similar situation to Kashtira Arise Heart, and when it got limited, yes, Kashtira did get weaker as a strategy because of the limit of Arise Heart. However, Arise Heart was not a 0, which means you can still summon it, you can still play with it, you can still exploit like your strategy with it, like to a strong degree. And the thing about Yumi is you don't need to get to Snatchy in order to make like problematic boards. Like, just get bridging into Cupsy Yumi way is already enough. And there are enough cards in the game that already do that. And you can see this version is playing Garden Rose Flora for Dawn Dragster. It's also playing Goyo Defender to summon Ashura King. Like, the amount of things you can do with Yumi as its own like engine is ridiculous. Heck, we even have an FTK like that is not really inconsistent and can be done with those same cards. Shoutouts to JoJo again. So, like, if you look at this like scenario, like Yumi is just even stronger than Snake Eyes because one Cupsy Yumi is way better than one Snake Eye Ash, and this card already got limited at one point. The reason Cupsy is really strong is because you need 2 interactions to just stop them from playing the game entirely, and this is just from one card. If you remove the Cupsy from the board, it makes it a lot easier, but outside of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, there's not a lot of cards that do that. And if you just get rid of the Cupsy and Cupsy does resolve its effect, they have Yumi Surprise as their extender. Other notable extenders that we have as well is Obedience Schooled. Like, there's a reason this card is banned in the OCG and the Master Duel. I don't know if it'll get banned here in the TCG. A lot of people are not playing it anymore. But that's not to say this deck doesn't have a lot of pushing power when it comes to their strategy. If you look at Snake Eyes, the real extenders that make it keep playing the game are basically Bonfire and OSS. While in the Yummy version, any other Yummy name is just an extender. This is very similar to Scareclaw, and how Scareclaw can just keep summoning itself one monster next to each other. So that already gives this deck the identity of a real one-card combo deck. It's just one of the best one-card combo decks. If we go back to Malice, like, the thing about Malice is, yes, you did have a bunch of one-card starters, but they were a lot more finite into how you bridge into your engine with those one-card starters. And again, I just went outside the norm to play this. Like, not everybody's doing this in Malice. Like, back then, all you had was Dormouse. Jessica was would have been like another starter if you have like another Malice name. And then you had White Rabbit that just sets TB11, and that also was full combo. Yeah, like, I think we're getting to a point where Yummy is just a little too strong as a one-card combo deck. It's a little too splashable. I forgot about Marshmallow when I was showing my example. This is just another extender in the archetype. And the fact that it can play all this much non-engine, the fact that it has consistent FTKs, the fact that it's just like it has like a lot of ways to bridge into it, is just one of those things in the game where you're gonna have to keep an eye on. Now, will this prolong until the next Forbidden Limited list? I'm not sure. One thing I will say is this strategy will get a lot weaker once Blazing Dominion arrives, because Cool Tune is a hard counter to this deck. That being said, until that format arrives, expect to see a lot of Yummy. A lot more Yummy than you're probably used to seeing. Before the release of these cards, I would have said that Yummy was not at a strong level. I would have said it was a very competent and strong strategy. Like, you have other ways to bridge into it, like Tri-Brigades as well. However, now it's gonna get to a point where it's just gonna be super easy to just play the deck, even with Snatchy Limited. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. I kind of wanted to just give a small PSA and talk about how splashable Yummy is becoming. And, you know, if you didn't like Snake Eye format, if you didn't like Malice format, this is just going to be something very similar that you're going to have to face real soon. And expect to see something to a very similar degree. Until next time, keep practicing and keep dueling.